the quiet town of Silverbrook, a respected judge's life unraveled in ways no one could have predicted. An affair led to betrayal, and betrayal led to murder. The story begins with a serene image of Silverbrook, a picturesque town where life moves at a gentle pace. Its cobblestone streets and charming town square seem untouched by scandal. At the center of this idyllic community is Judge William Radcliffe, a man revered for his integrity and commitment to justice. His calm demeanor in court and steadfast support of community events made him a local icon. But behind the polished facade of his life lay secrets so explosive they would shake Silverbrook to its core. Claire Jennings, a young woman full of ambition and fire, enters the picture. With dreams of leaving the confines of her small-town existence, she is drawn to the wealth and power that William represents. Their connection, initially innocent, spirals into a clandestine affair that neither can control. But as their relationship intensifies, so does the risk. What happens when forbidden passions collide with a need for control? How does a seemingly perfect life crumble into chaos? These questions linger like a shadow over Silverbrook, where the truth is more shocking than anyone could have imagined. The affair isn't just a betrayal of marriage vows. It's a betrayal of trust, a breach of the very principles that William has spent his life upholding. It's a story of desires that refuse to be silenced, of promises made in secret, and of lies that became too heavy to bear. If stories of love, deception, and tragedy captivate you, hit like and subscribe for more real-life tales that grip the heart and mind. William Radcliffe was the very definition of success. A judge who presided over Silverbrook's most high-profile cases, he had earned a reputation as a man of unshakable principles. He was the kind of person people looked up to, a beacon of fairness and justice in a world where such traits often seemed elusive. At home, William's life seemed equally enviable. His grand estate, perched on a hill overlooking the town, was a symbol of his success. Inside its stately walls lived his wife, Margaret, a woman known for her elegance and charm. Together they attended charity galas and town functions, always projecting the image of a power couple. Their teenage daughter, Lily, was the darling of the community, bright, talented, and loved by all. To the outside world, the Radcliffe family was untouchable. But perfection is often a fragile illusion, and William's seemingly flawless existence masked a longing he couldn't ignore. Claire Jennings, a 24-year-old bartender whose vibrant energy lit up every room she entered. Claire was a dreamer, sketching portraits and landscapes during quiet moments at the bar where she worked. She envisioned a life far removed from the routine of Silverbrook, a life where her art could thrive and her ambitions would finally be realized. Her charisma drew people in, but it was her determination to rise above her circumstances that truly set her apart. One evening, fate placed Judge Radcliffe on a bar stool at Claire's workplace. He was there to escape from the pressures of his job, from the expectations of his family, and perhaps even from himself. Claire's laughter caught his attention, her uninhibited joy a stark contrast to the measured, composed world he inhabited. For Claire, William represented power and stability, qualities she craved in her chaotic life. For William, Claire was freedom, a reminder of the passion he felt he'd lost. It started innocently enough. A conversation about art turned into a discussion about life's struggles and dreams. William found himself returning to the bar, each visit pulling him deeper into Claire's orbit. They began meeting outside of work, at first in public places, then in the secluded corners of Silverbrook where prying eyes couldn't follow. Each meeting felt like stepping into a world where their roles, judge and bartender, didn't matter. The affair grew quickly, fed by the allure of the forbidden and the thrill of secrecy. Claire, intoxicated by the promises William made, began to envision a future where she'd leave Silverbrook behind with him. William, for his part, became reckless, pushing aside the consequences of his actions in favor of the happiness he believed he'd found. Their connection was undeniable, but it was also dangerous. The more they built their world of secrecy, the closer they came to a breaking point, a moment when their choices would shatter not just their own lives, but the lives of everyone around them. The affair between William and Claire thrived in the shadows of Silverbrook. Under the cover of darkness, they stole moments together in secluded cabins tucked away in the woods, places that seemed like they belonged to another world. William's black luxury sedan became their sanctuary, parked on quiet roads where the only witnesses were the whispering trees. Late-night drives out of town allowed them to exist beyond judgment, if only temporarily. In those stolen hours, William painted vivid pictures of a future where they could be together openly. He promised Claire a life of freedom and luxury, away from the prying eyes of Silverbrook. Claire's heart soared with each assurance, her dreams of becoming an artist intertwined with the fantasy of a life by William's side. Every touch, every kiss, made the risks feel worth it, even as the walls of secrecy closed in tighter around them. As weeks turned into months, the cracks in their secret world began to show. Claire, initially content with the secrecy, grew restless. She wanted more than hidden rendezvous and whispered promises. Her frustration boiled over during heated arguments, her voice echoing in the small, confined spaces they met. "You said we'd leave together," she'd cry, her tears reflecting the pain of unfulfilled promises. William, torn between his obligations and his desires, struggled to placate her. "You have to be patient," he'd plead, knowing full well that time was not on their side. At home, Margaret's suspicions grew. William's late nights and emotional distance didn't go unnoticed. Determined to uncover the truth, she hired a private investigator. The evidence, receipts from out-of-town motels, photographs of clandestine meetings, confirmed her worst fears. Margaret's devastation quickly turned to resolve. She confronted William with the damning evidence, her voice cold and cutting. Graham, with panting, her— "How long?" Margaret demanded, slamming the photographs onto the dining room table. Her voice, once gentle, now carried a razor-sharp edge. William's face drained of color as he fumbled for words, the weight of his actions crashing down around. "It's over," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll end it." But ending it wasn't as simple as William hoped. Claire, sensing his hesitation and fearing abandonment, made her own move. She confronted him during one of their secret meetings, her eyes blazing with anger and desperation. "If you won't choose me," she said, her voice trembling, "I'll make sure the world knows who you really are." Her ultimatum hung in the air like a storm cloud, its implications threatening to destroy everything William had built. The once intoxicating allure of their affair now felt suffocating, and the choices before him seemed impossibly grim. Yet, neither of them could foresee just how devastating the fallout would be. A storm loomed over Silverbrook, its dark clouds reflecting the turbulence in William's life. The small cabin on the outskirts of town had always been a haven for him and Claire, a place where the rest of the world disappeared. But on this night, it became the epicenter of chaos. William arrived later than usual, his mind heavy with Margaret's confrontation. He had vowed to end the affair, to repair the fractured remnants of his life, but when he stepped into the cabin and saw Claire, every resolution unraveled. She was waiting, her expression a volatile mix of anger and heartbreak. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken words, a silence so charged it was almost deafening. "Did you tell her?" Claire demanded, her voice sharp and unrelenting. She stood with her arms crossed, her eyes locked onto his. "Did you finally admit what you've been doing?" William's hesitation only fueled her fury. The argument that followed was a tempest of emotions, accusations and pleas. Claire's voice rose in defiance, her words cutting through William's attempts to pacify her. She hurled the promises he had made back at him, each one like a dagger to his carefully constructed life. "You don't love her. You love me," Claire shouted, tears streaming down her face. "Why won't you fight for us? For me?" William, desperate and cornered, lashed out, his voice breaking under the strain. "You don't understand what's at stake. My career, my family, everything I've built." But Claire refused to back down. "Then maybe I should tell them all," she said, her voice icy and determined. "Maybe it's time the world knows who Judge Radcliffe really is." Those words were the spark that ignited an inferno. Fear, anger, and desperation collided in a way neither of them could control. The argument escalated into a physical altercation, each of them blinded by the intensity of their emotions. The idyllic cabin, once a refuge, became a battlefield, the walls echoing with shouts and the sound of objects crashing to the floor. Hours later, chaos descended on Silverbrook. Claire Jennings was found lifeless in her apartment, a single gunshot wound to her chest, her vibrant, ambitious life extinguished in an instant. The scene was grim, her art supplies scattered across the room as if in a final act of defiance against the tragedy that unfolded. At the Radcliffe mansion, Margaret was discovered sprawled at the bottom of the grand staircase. The chandelier above cast an eerie glow on her lifeless body, her hand clutching a shattered photograph of her family. The once pristine home was now a crime scene, its opulence marred by the shadow of death. The news sent shockwaves through Silverbrook. A town that had prided itself on its peaceful existence was now at the center of a scandal so profound it defied belief. The streets buzzed with speculation as police scrambled to piece together the events of that fateful night. Witnesses reported seeing William leaving the cabin in a state of disarray, his face pale and his hands trembling. Others claimed they saw him speeding away from his estate, his car headlights cutting through the darkness like a beacon of desperation. As the investigation unfolded, the truth became murkier, the lines between victim and perpetrator blurring in a haze of lies, secrets, and shattered lives. Silverbrook's beloved judge, the man who had once epitomized justice and integrity, was now the prime suspect in a case that gripped the nation. And as the community grappled with the enormity of the tragedy, one question hung in the air, unanswered and haunting. How could it all go so wrong? How could it all go so wrong? How could it all go so wrong? Silverbrook Police Department had never faced a case so explosive. The double tragedy that claimed the lives of Claire Jennings and Margaret Radcliffe sent shockwaves through the town, and no detail was too small to escape scrutiny. The evidence, as it came to light, painted a grim picture, with William Radcliffe at its center. Detectives began piecing together the events of that night, and their findings were damning. Fingerprints matching William's were found at Claire's apartment, along with fragments of shattered glass from a whiskey bottle he had brought there earlier that evening. A series of text messages between the two, retrieved from Claire's phone, told a story of rising tensions. "I can't keep waiting for you to leave her," one message from Claire read. "Don't do anything rash, we'll figure this out," William had replied. To the investigators, the text suggested a relationship teetering on the brink of disaster. Witness statements added to the mounting suspicion. A neighbor reported hearing a heated argument from Claire's apartment on the night of her death. Another witness claimed to have seen William's car speeding away from the area shortly afterward. The evidence, while circumstantial, seemed overwhelming. Meanwhile, at the Radcliffe mansion, investigators uncovered signs of a struggle near the staircase where Margaret's body was found. A toppled vase and a broken picture frame suggested a confrontation had taken place shortly before her fatal fall. Forensic experts discovered William's fingerprints on the shattered frame, adding yet another layer to the case. The public, once enamored with their esteemed judge, turned against him with startling speed. Headlines screamed accusations and social media buzzed with speculation. "From bench to betrayal, the fall of Judge Radcliffe," read one tabloid cover. The town of Silverbrook, which had once celebrated William as a pillar of integrity, now watched in horror as his reputation unraveled. Just as the case against William seemed airtight, a new lead emerged, one that threw the investigation into disarray. A late-night tip from an anonymous source pointed detectives toward Owen Marshall, Margaret's estranged brother. Owen, a man known for his volatile temper and long-standing feud with William, had recently been spotted arguing with Margaret at a local cafe. Witnesses described the exchange as heated, with Owen storming out after shouting, "You'll regret this." Digging into Owen's background revealed a history of financial trouble and resentment toward William, whom he blamed for excluding him from the family's wealth. Margaret, as the executor of their parents' estate, had denied Owen's repeated requests for financial assistance, citing his reckless spending and questionable investments. The rejection deepened his animosity, particularly toward William, whom he accused of influencing Margaret's decisions. When police searched Owen's modest home on the outskirts of town, they discovered a journal filled with angry, scrawled entries. One passage, in particular, caught their attention. "William's a fraud. He's taken everything from me, my family, my future. I'll make him pay for what he's done." The discovery of the journal, combined with surveillance footage placing Owen near Claire's apartment on the night of her death, shifted the narrative. Could Owen have orchestrated the tragedy as an act of revenge, framing William in the process? His connection to Claire, initially dismissed as coincidental, also came under scrutiny. A bartender at Claire's workplace recalled seeing Owen there several times, often sitting in the corner and watching her intently. Owen's arrest sent shockwaves through Silverbrook. The once clear case against William now seemed muddled, raising more questions than answers. Was Owen the mastermind behind the deaths of Claire and Margaret, driven by his vendetta against William, or was he a convenient scapegoat in a case riddled with complexities? As the town reeled from the revelations, the investigation took on a new urgency. Detectives worked tirelessly to untangle the web of lies, motives, and connections, knowing that the truth, when finally uncovered, would shatter Silverbrook's fragile sense of normalcy forever. The trial of Owen Marshall gripped Silverbrook like a vice. Courtrooms, usually somber and procedural, became the epicenter of a media storm. Every seat was filled with curious locals, journalists, and those seeking answers to the mysteries that had haunted the town. Cameras flashed as William Radcliffe walked into the courtroom, his face lined with exhaustion and humiliation. Across from him sat Owen, defiant yet uneasy, his scowl masking the weight of the accusations against him. The prosecution came out swinging, presenting their case with precision. They highlighted Owen's journal, filled with resentment and threats, and then played surveillance footage of him near Claire's apartment the night of her death. Witnesses testified to his outburst toward Margaret and his growing fixation on William's downfall. The jury listened intently as the prosecution painted Owen as a man consumed by rage. But the defense wasn't silent. Owen's lawyer countered with claims that William had more to gain from the murders, implying that the judge had manipulated the narrative to save himself. The courtroom buzzed with speculation when text messages between William and Claire were read aloud, exposing the depth of their affair and the heated arguments leading up to her death. For every piece of evidence pointing to Owen, the defense found a way to redirect suspicion toward William. The tension reached its peak when Owen himself took the stand. His confession was both shocking and heartbreaking. "I hated him," Owen said, his voice trembling but resolute. "He took my family away, turned Margaret against me, and left me with nothing. I wanted him to suffer, to lose everything like my sister did." His words were met with gasps and murmurs from the audience, a palpable mixture of shock and outrage. Owen admitted to framing William, leaving fingerprints and planting incriminating evidence to implicate the judge, but he vehemently denied being involved in the actual murders. His plan, he claimed, was only to ruin William's reputation, not take lives. The confession, while revealing, only deepened the mystery surrounding Claire and Margaret's deaths. After weeks of testimony, the jury delivered their verdict. Owen was found guilty of conspiracy and obstruction of justice, but not of murder. The lack of concrete evidence tying him to the killings left a cloud of uncertainty. William, though acquitted of any direct involvement, emerged from the trial a broken man. For William Radcliffe, freedom came at a cost. Though he was legally exonerated, his life was in ruins. The once revered judge was disbarred, his reputation irreparably tarnished. His grand estate was sold to cover mounting legal fees, and the community that had once adored him now regarded him with suspicion and disdain. Margaret's death left a void in Silverbrook's social circles, and Lily, their teenage daughter, faced the cruel whispers and stares of classmates who couldn't separate her from her father's scandal. She withdrew from the public eye, retreating to live with relatives far from the town's suffocating scrutiny. As for Owen, he was sentenced to years in prison, his name forever associated with betrayal and destruction. But his conviction didn't bring closure. The unanswered question of who truly killed Claire and Margaret haunted Silverbrook, a lingering shadow over a town desperate to move on. The tragic saga of William Radcliffe, Claire Jennings, and the shattered Radcliffe family is a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition, betrayal, and the pursuit of forbidden desires. The ripple effects of their choices left lives destroyed and a community fractured, proving that some wounds never fully heal. What might have been done differently to prevent such a tragic outcome? Was it the secrecy, the lies, or the unchecked emotions that set this chain of events into motion? How do we balance personal desires with the responsibility to those we care about? If this story left you on the edge of your seat, hit like and subscribe. We bring you tales of human triumph, tragedy, and the decisions that shape our lives. Until next time, stay curious and stay captivated.